Alba.
What's up, Rakush?
I got some.
I didn't know if you wanted me to say your last name as well.
Oh yeah, I feel like your last name kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit better than mine. So like it's okay for me to say your full name just from like a execution standpoint. Don't know if you want me to say your last name. You can bleep it out. It's your call.
No, I mean, to be honest, Jaren's put my whole name on blast for a very long time on the show, so I think we're good.
Yeah, you've been on every episode for what now, like 87 years or something like that?
I think actually we're going into year 13 next.
Year 13? Huh.
Year 12 or 13. I know we passed 11.
Before you know it, this show is going to be in puberty. It's, going to be rebelling against you. Saying you're not its dad.
That's so sad. I'm not this show's dad. To be fair, this show has two dads, and it's Jaren and Mark, I think.
I think so. Yeah. But Matt, got some sad news about one of the dads today. It's a little bit of a bittersweet start to this episode. Our good friend and regular host of the show, Jaren, has been kidnapped by some cleaners.
Oh no.
He sent me a message earlier saying, he's fighting hard trying to, escape from the cleaners, but it's a little bit touch and go right now, So T's and P's up for Jaren. Hopefully he escapes. And hey, maybe he's able to make an emergency phone call into this episode later on today. We shall find out. Yeah, so we're just kind of gonna be two-manning it for the time being. And it's a little bit of an interesting episode. Now, if Jaren were here, I definitely think we would have been talking about the Switch 2 reveal a little bit more. We will get to that in a little bit, but Matt, maybe you and I can talk about something that we are a little bit more familiar and hands-on with. It's a little bit more Monster Hunter talk this week. And it's not just more of the same. There is a reason we do want to talk about it. This week, there was the title update 1, which is a free title update.
Yes.
With the very important update that you can now customize Alma's glasses. So yeah, I mean, listen, I wanted to do like a deep dive into just like the new pair of glasses that have been added to this game.
Yes.
Matt, what are your thoughts about the new glasses?
I personally am not a fan as much over Alma's regular glasses, but the glasses that they added for the characters, now I think there's some potential there.
It feels like you're Mr. Old-fashioned here, like you're not down with change.
No, I think I am very much, against change, I don't like it when things are different from how I like them to be.
Change is scary. I do get it, But jokes aside, like, no, look, there was a lot more to this title update, including 2 monsters, one new one, kind of like an extension of like the story mode. Zoh Shia is now a recurring monster.
Yes.
That you can, fight as Zoh Shia appears on the map. Mizutsune is a brand new addition, last seen in Monster Hunter Rise. And yeah, look, like Monster Hunter Rise has a very different art style, right?
Yeah.
So when they announced Mizutsune, I think even my first thought was like curious how like, the creature's sort of design is gonna sort of convert over into Monster Hunter Wild. I don't think it disappointed. I think Mizutsune looks really nice.
Yeah. I was like really, really looking forward to how Mizutsune was going to look in this, especially coming from a more stylized style, like you said in Monster Hunter Rise, seeing it in more of a realistic, I guess, style is very, very nice.
Yeah, or like a key release, like, versus like Rise, which I would call a little bit more of like a side story.
Yeah, I think it's fair to call like Rise the I mean, Rise does fall into like the kind of side Monster Hunter games.
Yeah, exactly, right? So this one is more in line with like, Worlds and like, 4 and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think it's Mizutsune is a very natural fit in this game. I think there's a very unique skill set on this monster as well. Trying to adapt to that has been really interesting. I guess we should explain Mizutsune's kind of moveset a little bit more as well instead of just kind of jumping into it. But Mizutsune is, I don't know how you describe the shape of this creature, but it's kind of serpent-like.
Yeah, it's a serpent-like fox. Yeah, it's a serpent-like fox.
Serpent-like fox, yeah.
Mhm.
And like the movement is very unique and like it's very snake-like, of course. But yeah, like there's definitely like a lot of just like unique movement to it that some of the other creatures in wilds don't necessarily have just yet.
Mhm.
There's also the bubbles. I don't know what their actual term for the bubbles in the game are, but
They are just called bubbles.
they're just bubbles.
Yeah.
There we go. I got it right. There we go. Sometimes broken. What's that saying? Broken clock is right twice in a day.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yeah. So like, there's this bubble ability that like hinders movement, that hinders stamina, regen, things like that as
I mean, I
well.
think
Um,
that's just the standard
there.
water blight, and then the bubbles themselves are going to be
Yeah.
causing like bubble blight, which
Yes.
is going to allow you to evade. Basically, gives you evade extender at the start, and then if you get hit by bubble blight again, you are going to start tripping instead of just evading farther.
Basically, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of so I played Dual Blade.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like a little bit of a hard counter monster for me.
Does it?
And I found that really interesting. Well, at this point, like I'm overpowered enough and I have the right equipment to be
Mm-hmm.
able to navigate it. Skill set wise, or like if you don't know the monster enough, I do feel like it's a little bit of a counter pick to go Dual Blade, or Mizutsune is sort of like, moving around in unique ways, hits you with enough different kinds of blight that like, limit movement, limit stamina regen, things like that.
Oh yeah, I guess the stamina like hit to
Yeah,
you is actually pretty rough.
it's pretty rough. Yeah, exactly. So like those kind of things definitely play a part in it, which does make it an interesting fight as well. Because like a couple of weeks back when we were chatting about this game, one of the things I mentioned is actually understanding the people who said that, hey, this game actually feels a little bit too easy. I'm not good at playing video games, so the fact that I'm in that book camp, something actually must be a little bit easier about it, but mainly because of just kind of playing previous iterations of this game.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
someone's playing it for the first time, yes, I do definitely think there's a challenge there that you have to get past. And if you don't know what you're getting into when fighting a Mizutsune, yeah, like I do think that would be sort of like an interesting discovery process for like what works, what doesn't work, like what, like the timing of the moves, which
Yeah.
the timing is really interesting on some of the moves as well.
Yeah, I think that compared to Rise, this version of Mitsuzune, I guess because it is technically, going to be coming at a later point in the game than it is in Rise, is a harder version of like, yeah, Mizu. Like comparing high rank Mizu in Rise to high rank Mizu in Wilds.
Yeah.
Its movement, I think, is a lot more erratic, and it does have a lot more, I think, a bigger move set than it did in Rise. Because I did notice a bunch of, I guess, not totally new attacks, I guess, for Mizu, but they're attacks
Mhm.
that were on the Apex Mizu in Rise.
Right. Okay, so base Mizu is a 6-star monster. And then there's is it the tempered Mizu, I believe? That is the 8-star. So yeah, like definitely like, a higher tier, definitely meant to be a post end game monster that you fight as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, honestly, like pretty fun fight, I think. Like, not much more for me to say about it because it's just one creature, right? Like there's only so much we can really talk about that. But yeah, I think it's a good first edition, and hopefully, yeah, they continue to add a couple of more monsters over the next few title updates.
Mm-hmm.
I know they've already talked about, was it Tempered Radao, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, Arc Tempered Ray Dao should be coming, I
Yeah,
think, later this week or maybe next week. But
I thought it was 2 weeks from now. Like it's closer to end of April.
oh, okay. I thought it was closer to mid-April. Maybe I'm just misremembering the dates.
I,
But
I could be wrong. I know they have some end of April updates. I just
mm-hmm.
don't know if that's Tempered Radao or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I vaguely remember it being tied to kind of like the Cherry Blossom Festival stuff that they're planning on doing in the next few weeks. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
could be soon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what are your thoughts on it? Maybe there's stuff that you want to say that like I haven't necessarily mentioned here, but yeah, what are your thoughts on Mizu?
I mean, in terms of design, very much like Mizu. In terms of the fight itself, I do really like this fight. I think that it is definitely one of the more mobile monsters in terms of
Mm-hmm.
moving around like the area that you're fighting in. And it is, for me, a mobility that I like versus something like a Rathalos or a Rathian that's kind of a bit more annoying to fight because it's flying.
Yeah.
I think that the kind of like, drifting that Mizu does, the kind of spinning and everything that Mizu does, adds to the kind of overall majesticness of Mizu, and it makes the fight very memorable, especially since, there isn't really anything that moves like Mizu or in the game already, except for maybe Jaren. I think that's the closest thing to Mizu in the game so far.
Even Jaren, I would say, is kind of limited.
Yeah,
as far as like movements is concerned.
I think like compared to Mizu, it's a lot less like crazy in movement, but I think it's the closest compared to like anything else that's in the game.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, you mentioned the drifting. I think that has always been a Mizutsune sort of like element, and it's a really interesting sort of addition to this game. I think, like, it is a kind of monster that you haven't really fought in the base game yet. So that's why I think, like, it's really working out nicely in terms of variety. And also, I'm honestly like, look, the armor pieces are pretty much standard Mizutsune stuff. I do like it. Yeah. And I actually see some benefit to it as well. Like, there's some interesting skills attached to it and stuff. But all in all, pretty much a fan of the Mizutsune stuff. So really happy with that. I guess, question, do we want to talk about the network stuff before we move into the Zoh Shia fights?
Because what network stuff? Like, the network stuff seems to have been fixed, as far as we can tell.
Yes.
Which is like very good.
Yeah, like, I don't know if it's because we're now trying to join lobbies using like the squad feature. I don't know if something just got fixed and they didn't announce it as a bug fix. It's just like, network issues are fine. Like, we played 2 days since the update. It's been around 4 days since the update. So from what I can tell, like, we didn't have a single disconnect.
Yeah, I don't think we did, which is like very, very nice.
Yeah, to me, it's a massive thing, right? Because it goes from a single player game that can feel a little bit repetitive and boring to becoming a multiplayer game where the routine actually is just kind of like fun to kind of play in the background while just being on a Discord call with a friend, right? So it's a massive difference.
Yeah.
I think it makes a big, big difference. And, hopefully our currently kidnapped friend can join us for a couple of sessions if he can, escape the cleaners.
Yeah. I mean, speaking about our currently kidnapped friend, the last thing that I believe we heard from him was that he is, really, he needs to level up a little bit more to hit the next title update monster of Zoh Shia. And
yes.
What do you think about the Zoh Shia fight, Rakush? Compared to, I guess, like, because the Zoh Shia fight was in, low rank, but
in the base game.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think of like the fight, like looking at it now, looking at the new version of it, I guess?
I think this is the fight that actually makes me believe this is what version 1.0 was intended to be. I know we spoke about this either last week or the week before it, but when things got announced, a lot of the online discourse kind of revolved around people saying this feels like version 1.0 because they've added the hub world in, they've added Zoh Shia back in, like, there's a few other elements that they're adding in, quality of life updates, meal prepping is like a lot more manageable now. The Zoh Shia fight reminds me of what a Monster Hunter endgame fight typically feels like. You can definitely feel like you have control over a fight, but you will wipe. Like, once or twice at least, you will wipe. Just because, like, you'll mistime something, charge it to the game, like, you're gonna lose. It's okay. This really felt like more of an endgame fight to me, like an arena-style endgame fight that Monster Hunter typically does, that the Arkvale fight did not feel like to me, if that makes sense.
In terms of the arena-ness of it, yeah, I get it. I have to say that, I think mechanically, the Zoh Shia fight, I think is very, very fun.
Yes.
I like, having to kind of, balance the, the slinger ammo. Like, I feel like other than Arkveld and, Fulgur Anjanath, you don't really have that much opportunities to make use of the Wilk explosions.
So we should explain Wilk explosions before we move any further here, because I do think it's a very crucial part of this fight that you and I only figured out after like 2 or 3 rounds by accident.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a stab at explaining it?
Yeah. Okay. So like the Wilk explosions is that in basically a lot of the Guardian monsters, they have some sort of ability that's going to put these white crystals on the ground. And as a part of those monsters' movesets, they will make those crystals explode. However, you as the player are able to use any of the elemental slinger ammo to also make those explode preemptively and do damage to the monsters with it.
They also chain as well, so like that's also part of it. It's like some of the crystals are near proximity of each other. So if one gets damaged, it will kind of chain to the other ones around it as well. So it becomes like this interesting AoE damage scenario as well. So it's like this interesting element of like it's a race against time to get to the crystal before the creature gets to the crystal. But then like you can also use it as like, good damage against a high HP creature as well.
Yes. And it's also like a part of specifically getting around Zoh Shia's I guess like one-hit KO, which is I honestly, until you pointed out that the crystals went out, I had never actually noticed that the crystals were really there. I think every time Zoh Shia's basically what happens in Zoh Shia's one-hit basically near one-hit kill attack is that it's going to summon a bunch of white crystals on the floor coming out of it, and it's going to do like a fire supernova on every single crystal that you, the player, do not destroy. So it, you do have to destroy these crystals as a mechanic for fighting Zoh Shia.
Yeah, something I do want to clarify is you could, in theory, get far enough away from Zoh Shia to avoid the AoE damage, but
that needs Zoh Shia to be in a certain part of the arena.
Exactly. But then also, like, the whole point of an attack like that is you do want to actually, like, counter it, right? Like, otherwise, especially, like, if you're getting into a stretch of, like, fighting Zoh Shia over and over again, if you're hunting for parts or, like, hunting for items, then you probably want to figure out these efficiencies. But yeah, like, it was an interesting accidental discovery because, like, what ended up happening is I saw one of the crystals shine a different color. Because there's the Dragon Pod, and then there's the Thunder Pod, from what I remember, or Lightning Pod. I can't remember what the name is. So I attacked it by accident with the Dragon Pod because I was trying to actually hit Zoh Shia with the pod, but then it lit up red, which is a different color than the orange that it typically lights up as when it's about to explode because of Zoh Shia's attack. The Lightning one is a lot more evident when it just shines blue instead.
Yeah.
And they do like something like 160 to 300 damage per hit, which is for a creature like Zoh Shia, like you need to make use of that, especially when like, if you're playing a ranged character, super important. If you're playing dual blades or you're playing a more melee character, if your DPS is low, there's different reasons why it works out, but that's something that I really like about that entire element as well, where like it's so well balanced in that fight that like regardless of what style you play as, you can use that element to whatever benefit you want to use it towards. So like, yeah, I really, really like that part.
Yeah, I think it's just, very important to note that Shockproof does not defend you against this friendly fire.
Oh, yeah, it is friendly fire as well. Yes, for the record. Do not stand near an exploding crystal. But yeah, like that's a key part of the Zoh Shia fight. Was there anything else you wanted to kind of explain about the Zoh Shia fight?
I mean, I think as far as mechanics go, I think that's really the more complicated mechanics part. I do think it's worth noting that I really don't like that you can't sever its tail early. Because I remember kind of the first few times I was fighting Zoh Shia, like you don't do any sever damage to the tail until it reaches phase 3, which is Zoh Shia kind of goes through 3 phases where it starts in its fully white armored form, and then it pops off its head and wing armor, and then at the end it pops off its full body armor, and at each phase it'll get different attacks.
Yeah,
I don't like the lightning swipe. I hate the lightning swipe.
The lightning swipes are where like the red lightnings kind of hit like random spots on the map, right?
No, there's like a certain attack when Zoh Shia's in phase 3 where it'll like swipe its arm and then a
Oh,
line
yeah.
of like highlighted red will show up and then it'll just explode. And it's a very
Yeah.
wide area. So on some of the slower weapons, it's hard to roll out of it properly.
Yeah, what's your animation locked, right? Like you cannot roll out of some of those things. So definitely like the timing plays a different role. Like that's why it feels like a final boss to me in a way that Arkveld did not feel like. So like yeah, like for me this feels like the more complete final boss. But yeah, go ahead.
I wish that the Arkveld fight was more so in an arena because, to be honest, I find the Arkveld fight itself to be a better end boss fight than Zoh Shia's fight. I think Zoh Shia's is like more cinematically interesting, but I think the fight mechanics for Arkveld are more tricky than Zoh Shia's.
It's interesting to me that you're saying Zoh Shia was more interesting cinematically, because if I think about the more cinematically interesting fight of the two, I would say the Arkveld one is, because the Arkveld fight happens during inclemency, right? And so you see the weather, like, when you're close to killing Arkveld, you see the weather go from inclemency to the plenty. And I do feel like cinematically, there is something that feels a little bit grand about that whole experience, right? Like the light at the end of the tunnel kind of situation. And so, like, from just a simply presentation standpoint, I think the Arkveld fight is a little bit better. I don't know if it works as well in an arena because of kind of like a few of these presentation elements that are in this fight, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, like I get where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just like Arkveld's fight as a final fight more because of how tricky it is. You know what? Okay. I guess maybe I should go back on what I'm saying because
Fair.
Zoh Shia is a better final climactic fight in terms of like, kind of just like, what the story's doing, how many different faces there are. I guess I more so mean I like Arkveld's fight more in a fully like fighting the monster difficulty kind of a thing. So
it feels more like a standard monster that you're fighting as a final boss versus like a final boss that is just like in an arena, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like I think it's just like I think Arkveld's fight is more difficult than Zoh Shia's, personally.
I think I agree with you because of the way Arkveld moves and the speed.
Yeah, it's just
a
lot more erratic than Zoh Shia. Yeah.
Arkveld in a smaller space, I don't know how I'd enjoy it. Maybe we could use that as a segue into the Gore Magala fights, because even with the title updates, like, I think the Tempered Gore Magala fight might be the toughest fight out of all the ones.
Yeah, Tempered Gore Magala. See, the thing is, Tempered Gore Magala, or Gore Magala in general, is a hard fight because it is a camera difficulty fight.
It is.
Because it's hard to know what's going on.
Exactly. And then you put Gore Magala on the ice map, and it's happening in shitty weather. So, like, again, visibility is low. It's narrow corridors. It's a really annoying fight. Like, I actually think that is probably, like...
Yeah.
I really enjoy the fight, but it's an annoying fight. If that, like... explains it. The way that we sometimes approach Monster Hunter is like, wow, this is annoying. I'm having a ton of fun. So, like, it's a little bit of that. And I do, like, I do think I agree with you that I would say the Gore Magala fight is the toughest. I think Zoh Shia and Arkveld, to me, if actually, like, just kind of thinking about it all as a group now, I would say, like, it's on the same level right under the Gore fight. And even the Gore fight might be on the same level as these two. It's just that...
In terms of difficulty? Or
in terms of difficulty, Because, like, the weapons I use, the armor I use, maybe that's why it's more difficult. I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, we also, got a little word from Jaren of, I do want to say, hey, Jindahad, also very good.
Yeah, he's fighting, man. Like, I am surprised that the first message he sent us in the chance that he got was, justice for Jin. Justice for Jaren too. You know, I hope he gets free soon.
And to be honest, like while we're like slightly on this like topic of difficulty, I am interested in seeing what changes they're gonna make to Raidao's moveset when it comes back as Arc Tempered.
I am really, really excited for that one because I think Raidao is my favorite monster out of like this game. So like what Magnamalo was in the previous game, as far as just sort of like overall package, I think Raidao for me in this game is that, from like the music to the main level, like the base level that it's at, to like just the sequence of like the phases and things like that. If they're just building on that a little bit more, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'm wondering the most, specifically for Raidao's fight, is I'm wondering if they're gonna get rid of that really big opening it has right after it does its what do you call it, railgun,
like the wound that pops up on the mouth that you can attack.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they're gonna drop that for the Arc Tempered, because I honestly feel like they are going to I find that a lot of when they make monsters more difficult, they will have more variations on the move.
Yeah.
Which looks like they're gonna have similar animations, and I'm almost 100% certain there is going to be a fake out thing like that, where instead of just the railgun now, it's also gonna have like a shotgun or something of like lightning coming out of its face.
I would not be surprised if they did that. I feel like maybe what I'm thinking is a little bit more of a simpler explanation for that specific part, which is the amount of time you have to attack it will be lesser. And if it's lesser amount of time, then you have to take more for risk with your timing, because typically like with a move like that, I run away quite a distance and then I jump in, and like, with dual blades, it's a little bit faster to get the attack in. Not fast enough to like sometimes get to the wound, right? So yeah, I think that's my expectation, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do some fuckery with this to like really make it a special fight. But I am looking forward to it. I think that is a creature that could use an upgraded version as well. Especially in the narrative of the whole story as well, right? Because prior to Zoh Shia, Arkveld's sort of like rival, if you want to call it that, is Raidao. So like Arkveld is kind of strong right now. I would say the Raidao fight is not as difficult, even though it is entertaining.
I don't know if they're rivals. I feel like every time you see those two in the story, Raidao's just getting beat up.
I mean, yes, yeah, but like, rivalries could be one-sided. It's just, like all the cutscenes are with Arkveld and Raidao, right? So like that to me seems kind of like the pairing that they're going with. I feel like we've talked a lot about Title Update 1. Honestly, more than I thought we were going to talk about it.
I mean, I think we should also, go into the Gathering Hub stuff before we get too far away.
Yes. I'm surprised it's taken us this long to get to that, but the monster talk was really fun. And, before getting into the Gathering Hub, again, like I do want to say, like, I'm really, really happy that it seems the network issues with crossplay seem to be better. I don't know if it's fully fixed because, hey, we need to play a little bit more just to be able to confirm or deny that. But considering this is the first time we've played even one full day without a disconnect, let alone two, it's a massive, massive plus, because like that is what will keep this game going for me, right? Like that is what will keep this disc in the tray. Like that is going to be super important. So I'm glad that they figured a lot of that stuff out, which does tie into the new Gathering Hub.
Yeah.
I'm kind of 50-50 on the Gathering Hub, actually, but let me hear your thoughts first.
I mean, I kind of just wanted to talk about the Gathering Hub in general. I think, it's a very nicely designed place. I think the flow specifically of how you move through the Gathering Hub is like very nice in terms of, going from your tent to the build to the quest, and like, just going back, they're all in a line. When you're playing in lobbies, when the music comes on, oh man, it's so good. Everybody that's in the lobby at that time will usually kind of just like stop. They'll all run to the to like that area that's like right before the stage, and everybody's just gonna be doing like dumb emotes.
It's a pretty good
I
group.
Love doing that. Doing that. You have the big fat bird that's hiding in the waterfall.
Yes.
As the new kind of like owl. And you have
Explain the owl for those who haven't played Rise.
In Monster Hunter Rise, there's like you had an owl pet, and as like a kind of side thing, when you're in town, the owl would like go to its nest, and every few hunts, it'll kind of just amass items there. And now there's like a big chunky round bird that does it for you in this one.
Yeah.
And that thing lives right beside the very frustrating for me barrel bowling.
Barrel bowling is like
Mm-hmm.
I need to do it a little bit more, but like I haven't done the ticketed version of it. I've just kind of like
Yes.
been doing the regular whatever bowling just to see how it works.
Yes. So the way the ticketed version works is that you basically get 2 throws to the way that barrel bowling itself works is that there's a bunch of basically I want to say like explosives or fireworks that are all arranged in kind of like this little downhill area, and you from the top of the hill just throw barrels down. The barrels roll, and you're trying to collide with as many of those firework explosives as you can. The way the ticketed version works is, these fireworks are all different sizes, and once you hit them, they will explode, and they won't be worth any more points if you were to hit them again. They'll just disappear. So you're trying to hit as many fireworks as you can with 2 barrel rolls.
Yeah.
The thing is, I told you before that I was very frustrated with barrel bowling because of how erratic the rolling of those barrels is.
The physics are a little bit inconsistent. Yes.
Yes. But I gotta say, that might have just been an issue for one map. Because I think the very first barrel bowling map they had there for 2 days instead of 1 day, like all the other ones have been.
Mm-hmm.
And all these subsequent barrel bowling maps have had a lot less of these kind of like issues that I was having with the first map, where you would just randomly have your barrel explode, or it would just randomly change direction. So that could have just been, a map issue for me. And these
Fair.
like later bowling maps are all actually, I think, a lot more fair and fun.
Yeah.
And, like with the ticketed version, you are doing a score chase. I think it's like as long as if you get over 500 points, you get A rank. If you get over, I think 200, you get a B rank, and then I think below that is C rank, and you'll get like prizes accordingly. Once you get over A rank for the first time, you get a pendant, and that's always nice.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you like what the prizes are, but the pendant seems interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like general stuff. Like it'll give you, just like healing items or like certain tickets for like food and stuff. It's food cooking ingredients itself. Like it's a standard, what you would expect from this kind of I guess prize pool.
Yeah, and look, like the hub I would say is spacious, does the job as a social gathering kind of area.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you wanted to chat about before I go into kind of like why it's 50-50 for me?
Yes. Oh wait, actually about the hub itself, no. But like I do have something I'm gonna follow this up with. But
Okay.
How are you feeling about the hub?
I think it could be a little bit more populated in the private lobbies, basically. I think it is leaning a little bit too heavily on the fact that it's gonna be very packed in public lobbies.
Mm-hmm.
But like when we're doing like private lobbies, because I don't like interacting with strangers online, learn my lessons. I just don't. Yeah, like honestly, like I don't like going into a public lobby for a game like this. Like it is for me a very much a comfort game.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, when you go into the gathering hub, it feels a little bit empty. Not fully empty. Like there are still moments where it's like, okay, this is nice, but I could definitely see a few more sort of like NPCs walking around, like things like that. That it's currently lacking. I do think it does the job as like just a central place to prep for your entire big fight.
Yeah.
I think they've reintroduced a lot of things that made previous games a lot easier to play. Not in terms of difficulty, but in terms of quality of life. Just get to a fight faster, get to the arena quest, get to your smithy faster, get to your items faster. You don't have to cook your own meals. Like, those are just very basic things, but like they were missing from this base game. You could make the case that the base game was trying to do that as a choice, but considering how quickly this came out, I'm not quite sure it was done as a choice. That's kind of like the only thought I have on that specific thing. But yeah, like I do kind of wish it felt a little bit more populated. The way that like the base camp feels on the first map. It feels like it's kind of not like it doesn't have that same like, populated vibe to it.
Yeah, I also feel like it's just because it's also like bigger as well.
Yeah.
But I think that really is more so like of like a fault on you, I guess, of not wanting to interact with people.
People are scary, man. I don't want to interact with people. Look at Jaren. He interacted with some folks and he's kidnapped now.
The Monster Hunter crowd is very, very chill about, just running around and kind of just, doing the snake around the area or just shooting fireworks at each other.
Amazing. That does sound fun. Like maybe one session I'll just log into like a public lobby just for shits and giggles, just to see how that goes. But yeah,
like to be fair, what I do, because I also really don't want to play with strangers unless I like choose to. What I do is I'll join public lobbies, but I will password protect my games, so that like no one can really like join it. So you get the best of both worlds in that sense.
That's fair. Maybe we'll try that the next time.
But one thing that they did add with the title update and the Gathering Hub is the event quests.
Yes.
And man, I forgot how frustrating these were.
You're talking about the arena event quests, the timed quests.
Yes, the kind of like time attack quest that you're trying to, kill a monster in a certain amount of time with a specific like fixed gear layout. And man, I sent you and Jaren a screenshot of one of my failed attempts where I failed by like 0.93 seconds, and I
literally a different frame rate PC would have potentially helped. Like a different frame rate while you're playing that game could have potentially helped you get A rank on that. That's the insanity there.
Yeah. You know what? No, like to be honest, the thing that really killed me about failing that attempt is that I fully whiffed like an attack.
Amazing.
And I knew that and that was at the very end. Like that would have been a kill blow that I whiffed. And I had to, line myself back up and I was like, damn. But I have always really liked the event quests in Monster Hunter.
Yeah, because... sorry. I feel like we should differentiate because event quests I feel like are a little bit different than arena quests.
Yes. I guess this is more so like the fixed event arena quests.
Yeah.
Where these are arena quests where you are given a choice between, hey, like very specific loadouts of like, oh, you're going to use the longsword with this headpiece, like chest, like, they're going to give you very specific builds and you have to kill the monster in whatever time, like they say, to get like the best result. Like Chotacabra is like 3 minutes 30 seconds. Rathian is 5 minutes 30 seconds, and then I can't remember what the time was for the Dogashuma, but like they're all very. I don't want to say they're very tight times, but they're all very fair for once you like understand how the mechanics of like each weapon works. And,
I mean, you at this point you've also fought those monsters enough potentially to be able to kind of figure out what the quickest route to them is, what like the most efficient way of attacking them is, things like that.
And I don't know. Okay, I think maybe personally I've just never fought Rathian enough, but I think this Rathian has different moves.
Interesting. Honestly, now that you mention it, like I'm not sure. Even like when playing with you in Rise or like Worlds, like I don't think we fought Rathian a lot. Rathalos, yes. Rathian is a different story.
Rakush, I think you haven't fought Rathian in Wilds.
I think I've fought Rathian in Wilds once because I have it in my large monster endemic thing.
But that can come up from you just seeing it.
Let's check at the end of this game.
Yeah, I don't know if just maybe I haven't fought Rathian enough, but this Rathian I felt like had moves that I hadn't seen before, but that could just be inexperience in fighting a Rathian.
Yeah. Let's check it out next time we play because I am curious about this one. Like it took me past beating Arkville to get that big older looking dude. What's his name?
Gravios.
Gravios, yeah. So it is possible that I have not fought a Rathian, but yes.
Yes, but like, just like a quick thing, like going back to this arena event quest thing, like it is very, very interesting. Having to play a weapon that I'm not very familiar with, and like also going against like a time attack, and like these things are also giving their own kind of armor. Like none of them are particularly, I think, essential pieces of armor, but these are for the fashion hunters out there. These are far more, I think, I don't want to say normal looking pieces of clothing. These are far more like NPC pieces of clothing, where it's not as armor looking. It's more so like someone you would see that isn't a hunter, kind of like wearing type clothes. Right. So if that's what you're looking for, you should really look into these event quests.
Yeah, listen, I've always had a dream of being an NPC, so yeah.
Matt, but those glasses. Two more pairs of glasses. You get 2 more pairs of glasses, and one of them looks like the Persona 4 glasses. And if I can find enough pieces, I am definitely gonna try to make like a Chie cosplay or something.
I feel like maybe that's what we're gonna work towards next time. Is you need to plan out the Chie cosplay. We talked a lot about Monster Hunter. I think like this is a really good title update. I think this is what people have again been saying. This feels like it completes the Monster Hunter experience at launch. And I think they're right. I think this makes it the game that I was hoping to play in the first couple of weeks. So yeah, like, it's really cool. It's great. Looking forward to playing more of it. Looking forward to seeing what the title updates are. I think the event quest should be great as well. I do definitely see myself losing a little bit of incentive to continue building different armor pieces outside of just fashion hunting. Like the build that I have right now, I feel is pretty efficient. Like I don't really see a need to go and get anything new just yet. But yeah, should be interesting, should be fun. And I'm hoping they add more of the arena quest as well. Not to do like timed stuff, but like I just generally personally like fighting these monsters in the arena maps.
Not having to chase a monster is very nice.
Yeah. I like it is a good open world game, but it's kind of what I was saying when we were chatting about like just in general, like having more curated experiences sometimes, like having sort of like guardrails up. I do like the guardrails that the arenas put up, and like it's more of a pure form of the combat, right? Where it's like you just have to rely on like a little bit more skill. You have to rely on like timing and like knowing the creature and things like that. So
what you're saying is you like to fight monsters in Final Destination, yeah?
Basically, yes. Oh god, that's a good reference. Shit, Matt.
boys.
Oh my god. Oh my god,
guys,
you made it.
It's rough out there. Me as a trusted Lance boy, I wanted to come to this episode this week because last week, Rakush, Matt showed me the light. He said, Jaren, I see you playing as a bow main and struggling.
Oh, no wonder you're struggling.
I see you playing as a sword and shield main and you continue to struggle. But may I show you the light in the Lance? And Matt, I accepted the Lance light. And over the past week, I've become a believer.
Oh, yeah.
But, Matt, I need to warn you, it's those dual blade users. They came after me.
Oh, no.
When I pulled in to record, I was ambushed by these filthy heathens.
Damn.
Who were doing air combos.
Those stamina suckers.
There's a lot of implications happening here with what Jared just said. I just want to say I had nothing to do with making a phone call to a couple of cleaners to take the Lance guys out. That's all. Listen, I did not do that. I refuse to take responsibility for this here.
It was something about me taking their red spots because they needed to do their full attack on Titan combos. And Matt,
oh man, yeah,
as someone who preaches the light of the Lance, sometimes you poke and sometimes red happens. That's not our fault, Matt. That's not our fault. But boys, this week I witnessed something. There was a big event there is a big showcase, a big showing.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt,
Mm-hmm.
Rakush,
Jaren?
I have come here to also tell you that I watched HoloLive Indonesia member Eofi play the lance.
Ooh.
And Matt, she hits B way too many times.
Yo, sometimes it's good to hit B. Sometimes it's good to hit B.
Boys, on my way of fighting my way out of the dual blade clutches, I heard you talk about how difficult some of these fights are. And I thought, wait, am I not supposed to just mash Y and hope for the best and occasionally hold guard and hope for the best?
Oh, man.
Honestly, that's just,
boys, the lance is too good.
The lance is so good.
Jaren, this sounds like Matt and I have a third person for our party now.
I don't know about that, but Matt, I think I know some other lance users who might be.
Oh, I see. I see how it is. I see how it is. You guys are discriminating against dual blade wielders. I see how it is.
Cool. Bad.
Cool.
It's okay, Rakush. I know you want Attack on Titan to end, and that's why you're trying to live out the fantasy through the dual blade.
Here I was saying justice for Jaren, and then Jaren just it's more like justice for Judas, I guess, Mr. Betrayer over here.
I'm just saying sometimes you got to poke a monster in the butt. Is all I'm saying. Honestly, it makes me giggle.
Yeah,
because I am a Nintendo-year-old, but boys, Matt, Rakush, Jaren. It's hard to be a Nintendo-year-old in 2025, but as Rakush hinted at, or not even hinted at, just set up straight up,
flat out said,
we would be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that happened last week. I know the week prior for the Mistake Zone, we talked about the Switch 1, not necessarily send-off, but for the most part, it was essentially a send-off. And we got our first look at the Switch 2, and I'll be honest, I feel like after that, what was the runtime, Matt? It was close to an hour.
Yeah, it was just over an hour, I think.
I feel like I'll be completely honest. We'll get to the bulk of the main Nintendo Direct in a minute, but I feel like a lot of the substantial information actually came post Direct, when we started getting more information, about specifically the pricing for the console and some of the games, where I know this is currently what is setting Switch 2 discourse on fire right now. And I'm pretty sure all our friends listening have heard countless people drop their takes on it. But real quick, just a quick detail roundup. The Nintendo Switch 2 will be available June 5th. Since we are Canadian, this is a Canadian podcast, have to mention that the Nintendo Switch 2 console will launch in Canada at $629.99 for the console itself. And for the Mario Kart World Bundle, we're looking at $699 Canadian, where it was also revealed, I believe it was late last week, Matt and Rakush, correct me if I'm wrong, but pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9th, 2025, in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions. Nintendo will update timing at a later date. The launch date of June 5th is still unchanged. And of course, us north of the border will most likely feel a similar impact if that is the case. And the price for...
You think so?
Maybe again, Rakush, this is
sorry, I'm not being sarcastic there. I'm actually genuinely asking, do you actually think that's going to impact us? Because, everything I've heard is the assessment they're doing is for US only, not North America.
I mean, I thought that we would probably get affected by it as well, because, I thought there isn't a Nintendo of Canada. I thought all our stuff is, just getting brought into Canada from the US, so I thought we might get, screwed by that too.
And I think where I'm coming... Again, I don't have all the facts here, but my, guess would be, say we were somehow unchanged and we still had $629.99 or $700 for the bundle, and our our American neighbors somehow got a more expensive version, which I highly doubt considering the exchange rate. But say that was the case, the Canadian console probably wouldn't be region locked like the pure Japanese console, where also nothing's stopping from people trying to smuggle that back into the States, where even if the cost remains unchanged, I feel like actually getting supply would be rough. But that's more guesstimates on my part. But to continue the quick hits, the Nintendo Switch 2 from the My Nintendo store will be done on an invite-only basis for select Nintendo Switch Online members. So, there are a lot of different prerequisites for you to potentially be able to pre-order off the My Nintendo store. They'll take into account of, are you a Nintendo Switch Online member? Are you the primary owner of the account? How many games have you played? How many games do you own? So stuff like that. But I think another big thing to come out of this is, of course, Mario Kart World, which seems to be the flagship title so far, especially during the launch, will be launching at $80 USD, $75 Euro. And with Donkey Kong coming out in July, that's looking to be around 70 USD. So a lot of none of this was really explored during the Nintendo Direct itself, but I feel like as an extension from our discussion last week about, how we're currently feeling about gaming in 2025, Matt, as also a fellow Nintendo-year-old, just when all this price stuff starts coming out, how much did that either, I guess just point blank, did that do anything to how you view you owning a Nintendo Switch 2 in the near future?
Honestly, for me, it has not really changed my plans at all. Unfortunately, for me, like you said, I am a Nintendo-year-old. I'm deep in the trenches here. And whatever Daddy Nintendo says I have to give them for my drip of video games, I'll pay Daddy Nintendo that.
Please stop saying that.
Matt is a big boy with a big boy job, and he has a big boy disposable income.
That's okay. Just don't say Daddy Nintendo again, please.
Rakush is better than saying Daddy Activision, right?
Dactivision?
But
not part of that
I
one.
think, Rakush, I guess same question to you. With all the stuff to come out of the price, I wasn't sure how big, to be honest, the Nintendo Switch 2 was on your radar, but how were you feeling once all this price stuff started coming out?
I was already kind of like, I don't like buying consoles day of anymore. Like, the only one I've ever bought actually is the Nintendo Wii, and honestly, even that was because I just lined up outside of a Walmart one night. Outside of that, like, I've never bought a console during launch. I don't know if what they showed, like what the price point was, what the cost point is going to be for the games. None of that swayed me towards buying it right off the bat. I think if nothing else, it actually kind of dissuaded me a little bit from even buying it this year. Like, I don't think they're putting out anything this year based on what they showed that is gonna make me want to spend close to $1,000, including games, accessories, and everything, for this new console.
Where I think with me personally, I know, Matt, one of our first episodes when we brought back, the Mistake Zone, to have that more Saturday morning arcade edge, is I purchased the Steam Deck pretty much at launch, with the big premium price tag. I believe that was within the 800 range at that time, where I think with the Switch 2 coming out now, it's a harder pill for me to swallow, especially when you introduce a price like $630 Canadian, $700 for the bundle, where I think I was being a lot more optimistic with the price, because I honestly thought that we were looking at, I didn't think this was going to be $499, where I was hovering around, maybe $449, $549 at worst. I thought, it would be $600, but to see $630 for the base console, even if that is $30 more than what I was kind of expecting, it does hurt a bit more. And then when you see the bundle with Mario Kart World being $700, I think how I play games right now doesn't necessarily vibe with that price tag. Where, you boys talked about Monster Hunter for a good portion of the episode so far, and at that point, it's I want to play more Monster Hunter, and I can't do that on the Switch 2. I rather put that money towards updating my PC. And at that point, considering everything going on, how even accessible is that price wise? Where I think seeing all the price stuff for the Switch 2 personally kind of made me feel like I'm being priced out of this hobby even more, where I was actually really looking forward to, Silent Hill F and Tony Hawk's 3 and 4. But then seeing, again, Nintendo essentially opened the floodgates of, hey, Donkey Kong 70 USD, Mario Kart 80 USD. How much will that kind of be a trickle effect to other games launching later this year? And realistically, I know this has been the point of conversation, so I'm really curious about your thoughts too. Matt, what do you think this does to the Grand Theft Auto 6 price, assuming this launches this year? Like, everyone's talking about it, but do we live in a world where Grand Theft Auto 6 might even launch 99 USD?
Yeah, like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, speaking of, I guess, like, very high game prices, like, Fantasy Life is going to be an $80 game, which is, like, wild to me when I think about Fantasy. I was expecting it to be, like, a 50. No, it's going to be an 80, but
I just threw up in my mouth.
I do think, especially since it was Nintendo that did it, that Sony and Microsoft are very much going to, or I guess, like, the games industry in general, is going to tier up the pricing for their games. Because
Take-Two is just, like, licking their lips the moment that was.
No, I think none of them wanted to be the first one to do it. But if Nintendo's doing it, that definitely means that they're very much expecting them to, or everybody else to.
Rakush, do you have any thoughts on the Grand Theft Auto price now that we live in an $80 Mario Kart world?
I mean, it's not a Grand Theft Auto thought, but like you guys were talking about just kind of like the price point on everything. And recently, like, I've been looking up a lot of just like Costco's pricing, because it's been one of those places where, like, their like the rotisserie chickens, like the hot dogs, things like that, they never, like,
they're loss leaders.
They're loss leaders. Yeah, that's the term. And like, in this situation, I'm just kind of trying to figure out if, like, gaming has a loss leader, or like the industry can even afford a loss leader. And I think that's what, like, simply looking at what it is that we're kind of looking for, we're looking for that loss leader that's like the incentive to go in there and get more things along with, like, a console, right? Like, to me, like, the price point of the Switch, $629 US, $699 including a bundle. Think about that price. Like,
so those are the Canadian prices.
Those are the Canadian prices, yes. Think about that price, though, like, back in the day, like 20 years ago when the PS3 was getting announced. And, like, we were talking about how 750 was an insane entry point for that one. And the whole conversation there was, like, they're actually still losing money on it. I don't know if the Switch 2 is losing money on it, right? Like, at least 20 years back when, like, the PS3 was, like, kind of releasing, you could see the jump from the PS2 to PS3. And it's like, oh, wow, like, this is, like, pretty advanced stuff that they're doing here with the with the hardware and the technology and the gameplay and stuff like that. I don't see what Nintendo is doing with the Switch 2 that warrants such an expensive price tag at launch, right? And so, like, the only thing I can think of is they're trying to keep their margins while production is getting more and more expensive as well. I don't think Canada is going to get hit as hard as the US is going to be, because all the stuff eventually just comes from China anyways. And that's not me generalizing. Like, that is where Nintendo actually manufactures a lot of their stuff, some in Vietnam as well. So, like,
they switched to Vietnam and
4 or 5 years back, I think, because there was that shortage
and then which
situation.
in turn they're getting hit hard by tariffs like even harder now, which is also concerning.
Exactly. Yeah. So like the main thing is going to be distribution to Canada. That's what the issue is going to be. But I don't know. Like we'll see how that turns out. It's just like going back to this concept of a lost leader, right? Like what is that with gaming nowadays, right? Like the console is not a lost leader. Like you are buying the console at a luxury price. Like you use that term for the Steam Deck, right? Like that is the same thing with all consoles right now. And yeah, I agree with you. We like all of us are getting priced out of playing video games. Like it's becoming, if it hasn't already become, a very much an enthusiast hobby. Like it is not something that like I genuinely do not know how you can tell an average parent to go and buy a Switch 2 this Christmas at $630 Canadian. Like that to me is kind of like where we're at with the games industry right now.
Honestly, I know we'll get to the Switch 2 in a second, but when you mentioned, looking back like 20 years, I thought back to, surprise, I'm going to bring this to wrestling, WCW versus NWO Revenge when that launched on the N64 around 98. And I remember that was cartridges. So that was 99 Canadian when that came out. And what's that today? That's like close to 180 today, I believe. But it's, I don't know, it's this different mindset of where I'm more, I'm not asking my mom or my grandparents to buy me WCW versus NWO Revenge for Christmas now. It's being a grown-ass man child, I apologize, and kind of considering all our costs, our day-to-day living, and just all our respective financial states. It's really considering, could I go, if the opportunity presented itself, could I buy a $700 Switch 2 bundle? It's like, probably, but at the same time, I feel like it's such a hard pill to swallow, especially like just given the economy today, where again, I'm more so looking to games that are coming out this week that we're going to talk about in the next few weeks, that those types of titles excite me more than, if I had to be honest, are more must plays than what I saw during the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal. And maybe that's just who I am as a gamer, where I'll always be that Nintendo-year-old at heart, but this Nintendo-year-old still has to consider buy groceries for the next week.
Sure.
So
it sounds like you're a Nin-20-year-old now.
I mean,
that's depressing.
I mean, this is all only if you're looking at it as good Christian boys.
Fair.
There has been a lot of talk regarding, kind of like, like you said earlier, like details on how everything is going to work after the Direct. And the way that they talked about the cartridges working now put a lot of kind of flags out there on, it might be, there's a chance that our friend the R4 could be coming back.
Bro, so pardon my French, but it's so fucked that we're like at this point that the moment this big console debut comes out, it's immediately, oh crap, that's expensive. How do I jailbreak this ASAP? And I don't know, that makes me feel bad. But boys, we went down a downer route, but let's pull it a bit back, because again, we're Nintendo-year-olds at heart. And Matt, you got to start off with the showstopper, in my opinion. Flagship reveal, the launch title, the bundle title. We got a good look at Mario Kart World, and boy, am I eating crow, because remember when we first initially saw the couple of seconds of footage when they announced the Switch 2, and I said, oh, open world Mario Kart wouldn't work. That's dumb. That from all the previews and hands-on impressions that have come out, honestly, I think this is definitely a direction for Mario Kart that has me genuinely excited. But Matt, how are you feeling about what you've seen so far of Mario Kart World?
Yeah, so okay, kind of just like going back to when we initially talked about Mario Kart World, I think I did have a far more different idea of how they would do, or how open world was like appearing in my head compared to how they actually decided to do it. Mario Kart World looks very interesting now, especially with these kind of like, first off, the character roster, crazy. I can't wait to play as the cow and the dolphin and the dry fish. I think that's its name, the skeleton fish. Oh man, can't wait for that. I love that you don't have to customize the cars anymore, so that they, they all look good instead of like scrapped together garbage. The courses and everything, just like in any of the other Mario Karts, they all look like really, really good. I kind of don't like the change that they've made to Grand Prix. And the change is like, now it is, hey, instead of just picking, the 4-course cup, there's an extra thing where you now drive between each location. And I kind of don't like it. From the gameplay that I've seen in the Treehouse.
Isn't there a more streamlined version of the Grand Prix?
Is there?
Or do you have to drive?
I'll be honest, I didn't watch like everything for the Treehouse.
Fair.
But what I did see is like, what they were showing off, which is like them driving between the courses.
Okay.
While I don't dislike that idea, my issue with it is that, you're going to do your first course normally, and then once that course is done, it brings you back to like, the start line, and you divert off of the course into this kind of like I said, you're like driving from one course to the other. And my issue with that is that I don't like that driving from one course to the other course takes up 2 laps from the like following course. So you only do the following course like 1 lap. I really wish it was like 1 lap drive and then 2 times around the course. It's a very minor thing, but I really, really wish that it was, the other way around.
Yeah, we're honestly, from what I saw so far, again, I'm not really looking too deep into it. Plus, I'm just going based off of what I saw in the direct.
Yeah.
But it was really giving me Forza Horizon road trip energy where, sometimes you would go into a multiplayer lobby, you'd do a race, and then to the next race, during the road trips, you just drive to the starting line of the other ones. But like, unlike Mario Kart or Forza Horizon, while you did have a lot of circuits, a majority of races were, that point A to point B with checkpoints in between. And I feel like something like that really works better for a road trip style gameplay like that, and then like, truthfully, Matt, as a older than 10-year-old, sometimes I just want to go race to race. I don't want to deal with like that in between stuff where something like the knockout mode, where it seems like the in between has some stakes where, sure, you're one of 24, and depending where you place in a race, depending where you place on the in between stuff, you'll get knocked out. And I think I think that suits the open world better, but at the same time, I'm really hoping that it does have that Forza Horizon and Burnout Paradise energy of, hey, just spawn you into the world, go around, find all these different side missions and collectibles, and hey, you'll get a ping that a race is starting here. Do you want to, like, let's all drive to this one spot and start the race? And from what little I've heard, hands-on impressions, the world seems to be littered with a lot of that side stuff, a lot of collectibles that, you're trying to puzzle, how do I get to that? And I think that stuff is really cool.
Damn.
And, I'm used to how tight Mario Kart feels, and I'm really curious to see how something like that adapts to a more open world, more open fields. Because I don't know about you, Matt, I'm having a hard time disassociating essentially staying on a Mario Kart track and having those physics, those mechanics translate into an open world where it doesn't really compute for me. But how are you feeling with the Mario Kart world, other aspects as well?
I mean, kind of going back to the Knockout Tour, and I guess like going a little bit back to what I was saying about Grand Prix. My kind of issue there is that the in between. Okay, so from what I understand, Knockout Tour doesn't actually hit the courses. It is just the in-betweens between every course. And the in-betweens of every course look so boring.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have the excitement, I guess, or like the wackiness, or the kind of design that the lap-based what do you call it? The lap, just the lap based courses have. I thought maybe initially it would be like, what's that stage? There was one stage that's like, Wario's like a ski lift one where it is a kind of a continuous course instead of a looping course. And, I always found that one fun because I thought the level design there was like, pretty interesting, but the like between portions don't look that interesting to me. It's a lot of nothing. It's a lot of going straight. It's a lot of like not, to me, not interesting.
Just
like a
flat, bland, uninteresting. Where for the most part, it's not arguably the tracks and courses themselves in Mario Kart. Those are also characters.
Yes.
Those have so much personality. Where I do know what you mean, Matt. Where some of the gameplay I did see of the open world stuff just looks so. I don't know. It's different because arguably, hot take here. Breath in the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, phenomenal games. Some of those open field areas are really uninteresting, but I feel like Zelda kind of gets away with it, and Mario Kart shouldn't, just because you're, as you said, Matt, you're so used to environments with so much personality, so much character, and you would hope that they would somehow find a way to inject that into the in-between, into the open world aspects.
And I think it's especially bad to me just because the courses themselves look really, really good.
Yeah.
The amount of like variation that I was seeing in paths on the courses, the kind of like, I don't really know how I feel about the rails. They look to me at least very sticky in terms of like, hey, you're basically just using bullet bill, but they turned it into a course thing.
From what I heard on podcasts, they are pretty set where you don't have a Tony Hawk balance minigame. It's pretty much you fly onto it, you get magnetized on, you lock onto the rails, and you're able to jump if there are parallels. You're able to switch between them, but for the most part, you are kind of just locked in.
Yeah, but like the courses themselves look really, really, really good, and I'm really excited to have some runs on these courses.
Definitely. Where again, beautiful courses, but it's a shame that some of the in-between stuff isn't happening. But Rakush, are you surprised that they went hard into the Mario NPCs and didn't really include any other guest characters in the initial roster?
I suspect a lot of them are going to be DLC, right? Like that is now a thing with Mario Kart games. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's more just like base game is more like Mario NPCs, and then like the DLC is going to be like, third party stuff or what have you. But
maybe I'm just used to them introducing, the Inklings, Villager and Isabelle and Link, but I guess those were all DLC as well. Where because Nintendo will try to nickel and dime you after get you to pay $80 USD for this game. So,
dude, we might talk about this later, but like the fact that Welcome to Nintendo game is going to cost $10 and it's not a free add-in, that's insane.
Oh man.
Why do we need to wait for later, Matt? Can you tell us about your one of your latest fantasy critic picks in Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour?
All right, so the Welcome Tour from Nintendo Switch. What's the actual title? Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour is basically, first off, a kind of a overview on like how the Switch 2 works and all the new stuff. It has, I guess, like an interactable infographic within it, where it's just showing off, hey, this is how the Switch 2 works. This is how like it looks inside, and it has a bunch of mini games in it. From what I heard, it's around 20 or something like that, and from what I've heard, it feels very much like almost like a mix between like somewhere between a Wii Sports and a, what do you call it? 1-2 Switch is what I've been hearing. From what
I've also heard, it's like really reminiscent of, was it Astro's Playroom? What was there's that one Sony title? Yeah, that was essentially a PlayStation museum.
Yes, I was hearing that.
It was
as
a
well.
tech demo for the PS5.
And from what I've been hearing generally positive things about this game itself, but I do agree that like it is wild that this is gonna cost like $10 to get.
Also, like, you know what this tells me is if this is supposed to walk you through the specs and features of the Switch 2, there's nothing all that revolutionary about the Switch 2 that like you would need a free tech demo to walk you through it. You know, like that's also another thing about this hardware. It's like, what are they doing that's unique? I don't know. It just looks like the Switch, but stronger.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there is like the mouse
that's
stuff.
pretty much all you have to ask. Yeah.
I do like, you know, from what I was hearing, am now viewing this kind of just like 1-2 switch. In the sense that, hey, it's just a bunch of like, you know, mini games to play with. And for $10, I think that maybe that's not like that bad. I guess like I would have to see like what the mini game experience like.
Isn't really one of the mini games just trying to let you figure out what's running at 30 frames as opposed to what's running at 60 frames?
That is the most amazing thing that I saw. It's like, oh, it's hey, look at this video. Is this running at 60 frames or is this running at 120 frames? And I can't believe they put a capital G gamer test inside of the Nintendo Switch 2 welcome tour, because that is an amazing goof.
That's crazy.
Like everything I've heard about this game, I don't understand why this isn't a pack-in. Yeah. Why you don't throw this in your $700 Canadian bundle as well?
$10 for an infographic. That's crazy.
Reggie isn't around anymore to push for bundled in games. It's
we should have known this was the route they were going to go when Bowser took over.
Can't believe Bowser would do this.
The guy's literal last name is Bowser, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. But yeah, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. I believe this is the launch title.
God, imagine if this comes out like 6 months after the launch, like Switch 2 is out.
That'd be a good goof.
I'm floored. I'm legit floored. This isn't impacting. But when we look at the launch window, I think the next game with a solid release date is we're looking at Donkey Kong Bonanza, July 17th. So just a month and a half after. Once you got your Mario Kart fix, once you got your Welcome Tour fix, you have Donkey Kong ready to smash some rocks. And boy, Matt, how are you feeling about new Donkey Kong?
This looks, to me, just okay. To be honest, like I wasn't that interested in this game, and you know, taking a step into our fantasy league, that's why I didn't bid on it, because in my heart, I feel like in that fantasy league, I have to only bid on games that I think I would want to play.
Fair. You're true to yourself, and I respect that. But Rakush, did Donkey Kong Bonanza do anything? Did that trailer do anything for you?
Nah, Donkey Kong just looked very hairy in it, that's all.
Oh, okay. I don't like how Donkey Kong looks.
Isn't this the Seth Rogen Donkey Kong?
Is it?
No.
It doesn't. It looks a little different from like the movie Donkey Kong.
Okay, fair.
Something about his like face looks wrong. I don't like it. This isn't my Donkey Kong. Like I said at the top of this episode, I don't like it when things change.
Fair enough. I don't know. There was something I was hoping for a new Mario Kart platformer, but kind of seeing Donkey Kong Bonanza, and especially just all the destruction, you essentially terraforming your levels. I'm really curious to see how extensive that gets. But I don't know, maybe there's something primal within me just seeing Donkey Kong smash a bunch of rocks and creating craters and pulling up boulders from the ground and throwing it at other rocks to break. That does something for me, boys. It doesn't do enough for me to drop $70 USD after buying a $700 Canadian console, but it's definitely something if Shoppers Drug Mart still stocked of video games, I would put PC points towards this title.
If this game comes out 2 years, 3 years into a console's life cycle, I think it's a cool game. As in, like, you know, interesting gimmick, like, you know, interesting concept that they're going with. The fact that it's one of their, like, first Switch 2 first-party releases, it's a lot of pressure on that game.
Oh, I kind of see what you mean, but I feel like with the level of destruction, I feel like they're trying to bank on that as being, hey, this is how we handle, it has that Nintendo touch. We know our hardware, this is what we can do with it, not only to make it look great, but to kind of push what you can expect down the road, where kind of to that degree, Rakush, I'm really curious to see if this is really the Mario team working on this game, what kind of tech that we might potentially see explored in Donkey Kong to maybe find its way into a future Mario platformer, especially with the level of destruction where I guess at the end of the day, boys, I just want another Hulk. What was it? Ultimate Destruction, a Red Faction Gorilla. I just want to see things get destroyed.
You just want to break them up.
Yes. What was the NES game? Was it Wrecking Crew? Am I getting that right? What was that?
I cannot remember.
Give me any one of those. I think I'd play that on the Switch. But speaking about kind of in the summer, we also have, what is it? Is it Drag Drive, Drag Cross Drive, Drag X Drive?
I believe the way that you're supposed to read it is Dragon Drive.
Oh, Dragon Drive. Boys,
Mm-hmm.
I feel when I saw gameplay of this, I immediately thought, oh no, is this my monkey curl moment of I want a new Mario Hoops 3-on-3 basketball? Where, don't get me wrong, I want to like the idea of, wheelchair or basketball game, but at the same time, I just feel like it looked janky. I feel like the way they used the Joy-Cons to control it looked a bit odd. And not only that, I just thought the game didn't look polished at all. Matt, as someone who has this on their Fantasy Critic roster, how did you think of Dragon Drive?
I think it is conceptually a very interesting game. I really am interested in like how this is actually going to play, because the controls seem very interesting to me. The idea of taking both of like the mouse controls and kind of using them to control a wheelchair in I guess like a realistic isn't the right word. I'm not sure what word I'm looking for here, but like in a sensible way with regards to how you would control a wheelchair is very interesting to me. And I just want to see like how well the what do you call it? The shooting actually works.
Yes.
Because I remember that in the basketball game for the Wii, I think it was like whatever, like the newer Wii Sports, that second like Wii Sports Resort, was it? Where they're doing the free throw?
Resort,
that thing was kind of rough. I want this to be the redemption of the basketball video game in Wii Sports Resort.
I don't know. In the trailer, they showed people waving the Joy-Con to kind of wave to get the ball past them and to shoot. I think if that works, it would be really cool conceptually. But at the same time, that frame rate was rough. And if this is your launch showing for a new console, I don't think you should have rough frame rates to be shown. But
I mean, to be fair, the frame rates for that weren't as rough as the frame rates in the Nintendo chat thing.
Ooh boy, we're Matt, do you want to talk about Nintendo Discord, or should we keep going?
No, not really. Like, it's Nintendo Discord. Like, I think it is conceptually interesting, but it looked really rough.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's you guys have anything more to add other than that?
Nothing. That should not have been shown.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of rough. I do wonder about if you have to use a Nintendo camera for that.
No, I think they said that you can use third-party cameras.
That janky-ass looking wired camera. Oh my god.
I forget which notable third-party peripheral company is, but they're making like a Piranha Plant camera that looks pretty neat.
Yeah, saw that. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
Why can't Nintendo make that? Like, the third-party company is already coming up with cool-ass ideas like this. Why can't Nintendo actually be like, yeah, what if shit, they're into charging people more money right now. Charge people another $20 for that. It would be great as hell. What the hell, man?
Oh, speaking about third-party companies, now that the Switch 2 controller and stuff is out, I am very, very excited to see 8-Bit Do's take on the controller.
Right.
I'm interested in seeing where they're gonna put the C button, if they're gonna follow the Ultimate 2 kind of controller scheme, where it has an an additional set of bumpers along with its under buttons, and I am so happy to see an official implementation of a standard official, I guess, implementation of the grip buttons. I believe so that's what they're calling them, the GL and GR. Even though very weirdly from what I've been seeing on the kind of like details of people playing it are not real not real buttons, but they're not like game specific buttons. They're like system level buttons from what I've been hearing. I don't know if you guys have heard different.
To be honest, I haven't looked into that aspect of the Switch 2
yeah
yet.
Like basically they're like assignable to become any other buttons on a system level. Like you go into like your Switch 2 options and you set like, I want my back bumper to be B, or I want it to be like, something else.
Well, that's kind of what you can do with the Steam Deck right now.
But I'm just very surprised that like that's how they decided to do it instead of it being its own like in-game button. Yeah,
just a native button. Yeah, that is a good point to bring up. But yeah, also curious. But sticking with the games, just some of the other first-party stuff announced. During this winter, we'll get a new Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment, kind of showing Zelda's adventures when she was ported back in time, pre-Tears of the Kingdom. Matt, does this do anything for you?
I mean, personally, this genre of game has never really been my cup of tea, but the storyline here is something I am very interested in. I do want to see like if they're going to put anything particularly interesting into it.
Story-wise, for sure. And sometime in 2025, we have Sakurai's Kirby Air Riders. Rakush, does this do anything for you?
No, I was going to bring this up as another reason Mario Kart probably doesn't have third-party racers, because if you're releasing 2 racing games, you don't want to cannibalize on the roster, right? So
fair enough.
Air Riders is a little bit different than a standard racing game, I guess. But I guess they are both racing games at the end of the day.
Yeah. Like it's a catch-all genre, sure, but like it's still the same genre.
I don't. It's so weird to show it, but at the same time, the cynic in me is no. This is Nintendo's political play. You got to give Sakurai something
before he works on Smash again. Yeah.
Before he unfortunately kills himself working on the next Smash, but hopefully he'll have Air Riders at the very least. And they also kind of gave us a look at the quote-unquote Switch 1 upgrades for selected games when they come to the Switch 2, where I hate to Matt, I hate to admit it, Rakush, I hate to admit it, but if I were to buy a Switch 2 at launch, I'd be so excited to replay Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild and not have them chug and feel like my Switch will explode whenever I try to do anything funky in those games.
Okay. This is kind of like a typical topic that comes up every couple of years about like, I guess it's a meme at this point for me where it's like HD remakes of a game that's like 3 years old.
It's not even an HD remake. It's just like, hey, this is just going to run better.
That's the thing, right? Where it's kind of just like that's your launch offering. Like that to me is like a little bit of a red flag, isn't it? Like what is it that you're working on for 2 years down the road?
I feel like that's unfair just because like that I think that's the standard. We saw it when the PS5 launched. We saw it, when the Series X launched.
I don't like it regardless. Like to me, I always kind of feel like a new console should be a fresh start. And the fact that like you're going back to like the 2 Zelda games that were wildly popular. Like I would not say that they needed upgrades too much. Like I'm sure like it was kind of a little bit chunky, a little bit laggy, things like that, but like who's playing this game for the first time that hasn't already played it that you want to target, right? Like I don't know, man. Like it's just such a weird decision to me for that to be like a launch thing.
No, I feel like that makes a lot of sense as a launch thing.
You need to have that as a launch thing. Again, this isn't me trying to be like Nintendo bias baby, but at the same time, if you're
no, for sure, we've been fairly critical of it all episode. I don't think anybody can call you biased.
No, fair enough. But at the same time, if you're launching better hardware, I feel like that's the expectation at this point of, hey, some of your bigger games last generation, of course, they're going to be backwards compatible. But here's the cynic in me. sure, you can play it, but do you want to give us $10 more and have it play better? And I don't know, like
I think for me, it's just I want this console to stand on its own as opposed to be defined by games from a previous generation.
and that's fair, but we're coming at a point in Nintendo's, I guess, life, or how am I going to word this? Essentially, with the Xbox, with the PlayStation, they already have their ecosystems kind of solidified where, the expectation is I buy a game for the PlayStation 4. Hopefully it works on the PlayStation 5, and then same with Xbox, where I feel like this is really the first time this happens for Nintendo. Even when we looked at the Game Boy Advance I guess to be fair, the digital storefront wasn't really established at that point, but considering the Switch one was so massive, considering how much, their storefront brought in, that, yeah, you would hope that your games would come over. And at the same time, realistically, with the hardware being so, not up to stuff at this point, it's almost a decade old. You would want those to also run better, but
have they announced how much they're going to charge for it?
I did see $10 floating around, but I do know if you are subscribed to the Nintendo online expansion pack, those should be free. I'm not sure if you saw any different, Matt.
No, I didn't see anything different from that. That's basically what I've been seeing as well. But
I think, okay, fair. Like, those price points, I'll be honest, I did not know it was going to be $10 for the upgrade. That makes it very different than versus, like, buying it for $60, $70. So, yeah, like, in that case...
I mean, they'll find a way to charge you $60. Okay. Say the Mario Party stuff, you have Jamboree, but you also have the specific Switch 2 stuff.
Yes.
That you can buy separately, but you'll have your $60 Switch 2 SKU, so $70. I don't know how much it is.
The Super Mario Jamboree stuff was very, very exciting for me to see personally. The fact that they are going to be integrating kind of like more games that specifically use the Switch 2 hardware, or just like, like the camera or just like the mouse controls and stuff like that, I thought looked like really, really cool. And just very specifically, I think, might be like a me thing, I am very excited for the implications that brings to Rhythm Heaven. I don't think Rhythm Heaven's really gonna get any additional stuff, or or if it's like even gonna get like a Switch 2 version at all. But the implications are very exciting to me.
Matt, are you telling me that the Kinect and the iToy walked so the Nintendo Switch 2 camera could run?
Basically.
We're hoping, at least. We're hoping.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what's gonna happen there.
All right, some other quick hits right now. Rakush, does Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, which includes 26 minutes worth of new cutscenes, do anything for you?
Imagine if I said that would make me want to buy the console after what I just said about Zelda.
I think that's coming out to everything, no?
Is it really?
I'm
no, Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive.
I thought it was Switch exclusive, yeah.
No, it's not.
Really? I'm shocked. Okay. I don't know, like what extra cutscenes can they add to that? I haven't actually beaten 0, so I don't quite know, but yeah.
Well, okay. What better place to beat it than the Nintendo Switch 2, right?
Oh god. Stop it.
We also have Hitman World of Assassination Signature Edition with some Nintendo inspired items.
That one kind of looked a little bit rough.
Yeah. We also got Arcade Archives 2 Ridge Racer. Boys, Ridge Racer's back. Kind of.
Sort of.
And of course, Nintendo GameCube games will be available exclusively on the Switch 2 via the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack plan. Boys, nice seeing Soul Calibur 2. I like me some Soul Calibur 2.
Oh man,
yeah.
It's nice to see Link back in Soul Calibur.
The GameCube expansion, I think, like that, or the GameCube Virtual Console stuff, I think that is a pretty cool addition. Something I was hoping they would have done with the Switch, but I guess it was a hardware limitation or something like that. But no, I think that should be a fun addition to Switch too.
So what you're saying is you're going to be very excited to get the updated GameCube controller to play these classic GameCube games on, right?
I'll be honest. When I saw that controller, I honestly was half ready to purchase that before I even got the Switch 2.
Oh man, I hope 8-bit though does something with the GameCube controller.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like I've so very in like the past few years just become such an 8-bit though crony.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Man, I want their mechanical keyboard. You know, the one that comes with the NES inspired one with the big A/B buttons for some reason. I don't know. That looks fun.
Same.
That looks fun. But boys,
Mm-hmm.
there was a portion before we got to Air Riders that we got to Donkey Kong that sent the internet ablaze. And just as it was burning, I feel like it was snuffed out kind of equally as fast. But boys, we saw FromSoft Miyazaki's new The Duskbloods. And of course, following the direct, Nintendo did post a 3-part interview with Miyazaki, the director of the game. Again, when this was first shown off, everyone, me included, was pooping their pants because the idea of Nintendo securing an exclusive spiritual successor to Bloodborne from FromSoft on the Switch 2, I pooped my pants.
Yeah.
You know, I'll admit it. How was your tummy rumblies when this was all unfolding?
Oh man, Jaren, the 2 hours of Duskbloods hype that I had was like really, really fun. Like the environment, looks interesting. I don't know why I fixated on this particular thing so much, but I was very excited to see a FromSoft game with a train in it. I don't know. Something about that.
I thought that was like such a striking visual as well from the trailer, even more so than the Tin Man flying off.
Yeah.
But then after the hype of the trailer kind of died down, you started digging around, and then you saw PvPvE. You saw players choose from over a dozen characters. Miyazaki says that online matches are generally last player standing, but there are certain cases where victory conditions differ. He gave the example of players being tasked with teaming up to take down a powerful boss or other special circumstances. He says that there will also be personal objectives to provide separate rewards for players. Lore will be done through character customizations. And of course, he has to assure fans that FromSoft will keep making single-player focused games. Boys, as someone who said a few weeks ago that Elden Ring Night Rain did nothing for me, to see all this information come out that this was essentially a PvP multiplayer game made me weep.
The funny part about that whole thing was, like, I was watching the trailer and I'm like, there's a lot of like unique character designs for a Souls-like game, or like main character kind of designs for a Souls-like game, and then it was like PvP versus Z, and I was like, makes complete sense now.
Yeah, maybe I was spoiled just because, like, in Elden Ring proper, I was so used to all the different kind of armor sets to really differentiate your character, and I was low-key hoping that, oh no, maybe this will be our Octopath Traveler, and there will be some different characters that you can select with their own stories. But nope, it's a PvP game, and that does nothing for me. Not does this do anything for you anymore.
Once I heard it was a PvPvE, I lost all the interest in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's like successful enough for them to make a little bit of cash to go make their next like Souls-like game.
I mean, I think it'll be a successful game. I just think for me, PvPvE has never been a genre that I enjoyed playing.
Especially as someone who's never, again, my experience with the Souls games are so, it's Elden Ring and like Sekiro if you count that. But PvP does nothing for me. And for there to be that to be a central part, and for the most part, your win condition is you being the last player standing. That honestly, no. Sorry. Nothing for me, Miyazaki. Aesthetic looks cool, but I don't know. I'm not a PvP person. But Matt, was there anything else from the Nintendo Direct that caught your eye?
Okay, there was something that caught my eye, and then when details came out, it uncaught it.
Okay, cool. So another Duskblood situation.
Yes. This is Metroid Prime 4. I kind of just, I don't know, completely disassociated Metroid Prime 4 from mouse controls.
Right.
And, okay, the Switch 2 having the mouse controls, from what I've heard, it's like very fluid to, switch between them. It does, from what I've heard, work a lot like kind of just using a controller when you're playing a PC game and then moving your mouse and it just suddenly switches everything to the, I guess, like mouse keyboard layout. But so I was like very much looking forward to at some point, being like, oh yeah, my issue with Metroid Prime 1 to 3 was that I don't really like playing first person shooters on a controller. So maybe this is where I go into Metroid Prime 4.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear that Metroid Prime 4's like mouse controls aren't good, was really disappointing, because from what I've heard, a lot of people were saying that it feels like the Switch 2 concept of the mouse controls came out, or was I guess revealed long after Metroid Prime 2 or 4 restarted its development. So it was kind of pushed into there where you have soft locks. It's not true aiming with the mouse controls. So that's a little bit disappointing.
This feels like the Twilight Princess situation with GameCube.
Mm-hmm. And I think personally for me, I'm looking forward now to Splatoon even more.
Right.
And Jaren, I don't know how you feel about this. Do you feel like this is gonna, if you get a Switch 2, is it gonna be your new Fortnite machine?
Matt, I thought you were gonna ask me if when they release Splatoon 4, if there will be a dedicated button to say "Booyah, I use gyro controls" or "Booyah, I use mouse controls."
There is gonna be no one who isn't gonna be using the mouse controls if they use it correctly. It would be so wild to me that people would play Splatoon, I guess at a serious-ish level using the gyro. Actually, maybe the gyro they'll use, but yeah.
But yes, if I did this would become my Fortnite machine, or my secondary Fortnite machine to run my bot accounts on.
Matt's gonna be playing Splatoon against the 5-year-old, being like, "Can't believe we're not playing with the mouse, bro."
Can't believe these 10-year-olds,
these literal Nintendo-year-olds.
But yeah, the mouse controls are very interesting. I really, really hope that, again, even though I'm looking at you, I really hope that they release some kind of mouse and half mouse, half standard controller to use with PCs, because that is something that I've always wanted to have. I don't know.
Yeah. Boys, that was a beefy look at the latest Monster Hunter update, and also a beefy look at a Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that we watched, where a lot of hands-on impressions coming out of the Switch events. Unfortunately, we did not win the Switch 2 Play event in Toronto lottery, but if you want to learn more than our secondhand accounts of us watching a Direct, feel free to search that. But even though this was a beefy boy episode, can't end without a Don't Match Me challenge, and I believe Rakush,
yes,
you're up this week.
Jaren, I am. And I'm really glad that you're here for this episode. I'm glad that the Dual Blade builders lost in their efforts to kidnap you, because this week's Don't Match Me, I think it's going to be a little bit of a foreign concept for Matt Alba. But Don't Match Me. What is Don't Match Me? It is... I'm going to try my best again to say this. I'm going to sound very nervous again. I have a series of 5 questions. I have an answer to each of the questions, and it's going to be your jobs to not match me with your answers. The hard mode is going to be trying not to match with each other as well. If you're playing along at home, you want to try not matching with me. Hard mode, you don't want to match with Matt or Jaren. I'll get better at that one day, I promise you.
You're getting there, Rakush. It's a confidence thing.
I'm getting there.
It's a confidence thing.
Jaren, I'm really glad you brought up wrestling earlier because it actually gives me a reason to do this week's Don't Match Me, which is wrestling inspired. Or as I call it, Wrastlin inspired. So, yesterday night, as of this recording, was AEW's pay-per-view Dynasty. I have my thoughts on that one. Won't talk about it, except just make the pay-per-views a little bit shorter. But also, in 2 weeks' time, we have WrestleMania 41. WrestleMania is, at this point, as big a spectacle as a Super Bowl. So even if you don't watch wrestling, solid chance you've at least heard the word WrestleMania together. So this week, I have 5 questions to kind of celebrate wrestling as a whole, or to groan about wrestling as a whole, however you feel about wrestling, you know? If you're indifferent, you'll learn about wrestling. Looking at you, Matt. Let's jump into it, guys. I'm going to go with a very easy one, a very broad one. Considering the amount of total wrestlers there are in history, I'm going to ask you guys to just name a wrestler. For those playing along at home who don't watch wrestling, who don't follow wrestling, just think about some famous wrestlers, you know? Maybe they've made a name outside of wrestling. But yeah, in 3, 2, 1... I'm going to go with Owen Hart. There's actually a tournament going on for Owen Hart. It's called the Owen Hart Foundation Cup in AEW. The winner on the men's side and the women's side, separate brackets, are going to get respective title shots at the next big stadium show that AEW is doing called All In. Let's go with Matt next. Matt, who you got?
All right, I went with my favorite character to play on one of the N64 wrestling games, Ultimo Dragon.
Nice.
Oh, that must be a WCW game.
Good answer.
Yeah, Ultimo's... I actually have a great story about Ultimo after Jaren's answer.
My answer, probably my favorite wrestler all time, have to go. I was going to go with a snarky anime answer, Rakush, but I'll play it straight here. I went with my favorite wrestler, Eddie Guerrero.
Hell yeah. What was the anime answer you're going to go with? I really need to hear this.
I originally went with...
Matt. Did you think of it too?
This before. I personally went with... from one of my favorite 2019 animes,
yes.
Genzo Shibata, aka Animal Mask from Kimono Michi.
Jared, that is the first wrestler I thought of too.
My man.
Is that the one where like the character like basically suplexes a princess in this one scene?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's the one.
That's a great scene. Okay, Ultimo Dragon. So when I was in Japan a year ago and I went for the wrestling show that Matt and friend of the show Kevin did not tag along for, Ultimo Dragon was wrestling that show. The first indie show that I ever watched in our hometown, Ultimo Dragon was wrestling that show. So a lot of like my first in-person viewing experiences with wrestling are Ultimo Dragon. Turns out, Jaren, you might enjoy this. The guy who ran the indie company that I used to go watch like when I was 16, 17, went to Ultimo Dragon's dojo and was part of the same class as Kazuchika Okada.
Ooh,
Okada, a couple of years back, was photographed wearing a Blue Jays jersey at the game prior to Forbidden Door. He actually went with this guy. So like a very small sort of like, circle, very fun story. And Ultimo Dragon ended the show with a promo. This is like 16 years ago. Ended with the promo basically going, "My English is still shit." And yeah, when I saw him again last year, I kind of wanted to ask him that question, and I was like, that's gonna be extremely insulting if I do so. So I ended up not asking him that. Shout out Ultimo Dragon, great wrestler.
Fair enough. No. Fair enough.
Moving on to the next question. Name a wrestling company. It can be past, present, any of the companies. In 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go with Dragon Gate, which is the show that I went to go watch in Japan last year that Ultimo Dragon wrestled at.
Ooh.
Good answer.
Matt?
I looked one up and I saw Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, which
yes.
I decided to go with.
Okay.
Dude,
okay.
That actually, I also got a story about that one, but yes.
I have to ask, the reason I picked this, is this just Maple Leaf because it's Canadian, or is it Maple Leaf because it's branded by the meat company?
No. It's not the meat company. It's
don't
Canadian.
like this as much as I did before.
Friend of mine. He runs a local indie show here as well. Does photography at all these wrestling shows too. So he might be doing photography at that show as well.
Damn.
Shout out shooting.
I really wish it was run by the meat company. That would have been much better.
I think they're running a show at Maple Leaf Gardens soon.
Hmm.
Jaren, what's your answer?
As a youth who watched wrestling, of course, in the '90s, of course, I have to say ECW.
Hell yeah, ECF and W. All right, okay, we're gonna get a little bit more into the weeds here, okay? Um, there's a bunch of different kinds of matches that can happen in wrestling. There's different rules. There's different gimmicks. I want you to name one of these matches, a rule or a gimmick match. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go with the Royal Rumble, you guys. The Royal Rumble is a 30-man elimination match. One that I actually won like $300 off of this year because I did a Rumble raffle where we get random numbers. So,
I thought you were saying you won. Like
the Royal Rumble, yeah,
I don't know. You just like decided to take part in it one day, and you're like, oh,
yeah, in front of like 80,000 people, I just popped up. Absolutely,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Shame they booed you when you won, though.
Oh man,
they don't know shit. The fans don't know anything. I'm the real deal. Sir, Matt, what's up?
This is a gimmick type that I know that I've heard about before. And so I'm hoping that this like falls within the gimmick types that you're expecting.
Okay.
Which is the light tube type matches where they're just like smashing light bulbs against each other or like long light bulbs.
Yeah, I'll accept it.
We got him.
Jared, what's your answer?
I went with. I kind of feel bad, but instantly when you said, "Hey, pick a gimmick match," I went with, unfortunately, the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. Oh God,
R.I.P. Bray Wyatt.
Wait,
Matt?
Mountain Dew killed someone?
No.
Long story. This was a sponsored, essentially lights out hardcore match, and I believe was this Bray Wyatt's unfortunately last televised match.
I don't know if it was his last, but it was like one of the last. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
He wasn't around much after that, sadly. Matt, the gimmick that you picked is called a hardcore match. Now, I'm afraid you already answered my next question with this. But I'm going to need you to pick a different weapon that is used in a hardcore match.
Okay.
All right. See, the fun thing about this one, by the way, even if it's not been used before, just name something. And I'm sure we can figure out how to use it in a match. Anyways, in 3, 2, 1, I'm going to go with a pizza cutter because of the infamous spot in AEW.
Of course. I knew for some reason I knew you were gonna pick pizza cutter.
You got it, yeah. There's a spot in AEW during an episode of Dynamite, which is our weekly show, where Jericho's having a match with this dude named Nick Gage, Chris Jericho, and Nick Gage starts using a pizza cutter, and then they cut the commercial, but it's a picture-in-picture commercial break that goes right into a Domino's ad as he's using the pizza cutter. It's one of their best like accidents that's ever happened. It's so good.
It's amazing. It's a good.
Domino's was not happy about that.
Yeah, someone was not happy. I like whether it was Domino's or the TV station, but yeah, it's a real infamous spot. Matt, what you got?
This is another one that I've also seen, and personally always I thought like felt icky to me was barbed wire.
Barbed wire is an interesting one.
I think I just personally have always found barbed wire kind of like what do you call it, like it makes me always feel like a cringy whenever I see barbed wire, because I think for me barbed wire is like too real.
I feel that
of a thing to like run into, and it makes me scared.
Sometimes I watch a wrestling match with barbed wire in it and I'm like, that's fake, and then 5 seconds later they'll do a move where the barbed wire literally gets like stuck into a person's skin, and I'm my bad.
Hate it.
Jared, what do you hate, or what weapon do you have?
Again, as someone who was an ECW kid growing up, I associate the cheese grater.
That's a good one.
ECW.
Oh my god, cheese grater's insane too. God, wrestling's crazy, you guys. One last question to go. I kind of gave a hint to this, but name a movie starring a wrestler.
Okay.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be like a, starring role. It can just be like a side role, whatever it is. But yes, just a movie starring a wrestler.
I have an answer in my heart, but I feel like this is Rakush Pickett territory. But okay, I have my answer. I'm gonna stick my landing.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1. I am actually gonna go with the 1988 sci-fi horror movie cult classic They Live, starring Roddy Piper.
Okay.
Okay.
Did not go where I expected you to go, but that is a answer on brand with Rakush.
It's I was trying not to go with what I, again, I'm not trying to match you guys, you know?
No, Rakush, we're trying not to match you.
I'm trying to help you guys not match me.
Okay.
I picked Moana.
Good answer. Good answer.
There's only two movies that instantly came to my head.
And I know exactly what the other one is. Jared, what's your answer?
I went with the WWE Films classic.
Oh, God.
The Chaperone.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go with the Marine.
Yeah, I was, but The Chaperone was so bad. I watched it.
They're all bad. I'm surprised neither of us went with Fast and the Furious.
That's two on the nose and two on brand.
Yeah.
That
would have been too obvious. Yeah, I feel like that's why I didn't go with that.
Yeah, I was debating between Moana and Tooth Fairy.
Tooth Fairy? No, Tooth Fairy doesn't have...
Tooth Fairy has The Rock, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Sorry, I was confusing it for the pacifier. That's a Vin Diesel.
Yeah, I always mix up the pacifier and Tooth Fairy as well, to be honest.
Yeah, Odyssey, like, two bald actors. That's what it is. That is this week's Don't Match Me.
We did it.
Matt, did you learn a lot about wrestling? Honestly, I feel like you knew way more about wrestling than I previously assumed.
I mean, I don't think I really gleaned any additional information from this Don't Match Me.
Yeah, to be honest, Rakush, I thank you for your Don't Match Me, but a bit disappointed that you didn't give Matt an opportunity to pick German suplex as one of his answers. Like the time I asked Matt during a Don't Match Me to name a wrestling move. Oh, man. And I got him with the German suplex.
Basically.
Got me.
But boys, we've been at it for a while. You know, I need to scrape up. You know, I need to strengthen up my lance just because it's currently in the yellow and we can't have that. But while I want to do that, I want to thank Matt Alba for holding it down in the beginning of the episode.
Dude, your weapon is a yellow sharpness?
It gets there eventually. It gets there.
Oh.
It starts off white, then it goes blue, and then it goes green, and then it goes yellow.
Yeah, you just need to sharpen, bro. White sharpness is great.
Oh, man.
But then, yeah, I want to thank Matt for joining me this week, holding it down in the beginning, and of course, editing this podcast, and of course, showing me the light.
Hey. Yo, Jaren, I want to thank you, as always, for, half hosting this podcast and joining the Lance Boys.
So good. Also want to thank our boy Rakush for holding it down in the beginning of this episode, giving his thoughts on Monster Hunter, and keeping it real. Rakush,
it was me, Jared.
Doesn't like capitalism, and I feel that, man. I feel that.
Yeah. Capitalism.
Yeah. I want to thank my Lance Queen Eofi. I want to thank my friends for carrying me through fights so I can get sweet armor. And I want to thank Alma's glasses. Because, Matt, I hear glasses are really versatile.
Very versatile, very versatile.
But yeah, Beefy Boy episode. Boys, I haven't eaten yet. So I'm going to go do that. So, Matt, please take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and we're all out of hype for Duskbloods.